Hi, I'm Kurt Steinbach, Chief Creative Officer of MBM Marketing.
And I'm Maggie Beckstoffer, President of MBM Marketing.
We're glad you're here. This is the first video in what will be a four-part series on smart branding. That is the MBM process that is far superior to the traditional approach to branding. The traditional approach has been around for decades now, and we think it's built on some really flawed assumptions, which the smart branding process eliminates.
Yes, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on smart branding today. What I think would be really helpful is to explain how traditional branding works. As Kurt said, it's been around for decades. It's been done the same way for decades.
Right.
And it really starts at a point where either a company is having issues on sales and growth.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a new CEO comes in and says, "Hey, I want to put my mark on this organization, so let's look at a rebrand or a new brand." And a lot of times, also the senior leadership just says, "Gosh, we've had the same brand and logo for a long time, and I'm really tired of looking at it." And in our opinion, only one of those is a reason to even consider reviewing your brand, and that's if there are issues on delivering on the brand, on sales, growth, stagnation, issues internally that feel uncomfortable.
Right.
We'll talk about how we approach that later
In lesson two.
Lesson 2.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. But so what happens in the traditional branding approach is that a branding agency will come in and they will have a conversation with the senior leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And the senior leadership says, here are the issues in sales and the culture and la la la. And the branding agency will say, that's great, that's wonderful. Now we're going to go do a whole lot of research.
Right. And so they do their research, unfortunately, outside the company. They look at the competition and what the competition is promising but not delivering, and they look at potential customers, not just their existing customers who have been with them a long time, but potential customers and how the branding agency can help the company, the client, attract additional customers.
Right. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. I don't think that we're
Certainly.
trying to discredit our colleagues at all. We just really want to explain that that work is very much focused externally. It's focused on the marketplace. And so once this research is done, the branding agency will come back to the company and say, okay, here is what we found, that there's an opportunity right in this little spot that the market's looking for and your competition isn't offering.
Right.
Here's what we think your new brand should be. And senior leadership might have some feedback, and there'll be some discussion, and then they'll come to an agreement, and the branding agency will say, okay, now the real work begins. We're going to come up with some taglines and some logos and some colors and some print ads and radio spots, and we're going to do a lot of focus groups, and we're going to test it and figure out what really gets traction within the market.
And we're looking at a lot of internal creative and account service time, which is a large expense. Plus, as Maggie mentioned, often focus groups become an important part of this. They can happen all around the country. That turns into a lot of expense, and it's just qualitative research anyway. It's people's opinions, not data and real results, which is where we come from.
Right. Yeah, our background is direct response, direct mail, which is all about testing and tracking and learning. One thing I can't help but mention is that in those focus groups, there's a lot of chocolate consumed as well. So there's, I don't know if you've ever been involved in a focus group where your company has, for you're sitting around a table looking at different ads and talking about how they make you feel. And in the background, the ad agency behind the one-sided window is just eating the same chocolate going, okay, taking notes. I mean, it's interesting. It's fun, but it's maybe not as valuable as some other ways.
Yes.
Take us.
We would assert that it's inconclusive. We'd much rather look at data and results and changes in sales.
Return on investment.
Return on investment.
Bottom line.
Imagine that.
So once this focus group, so getting back on track a little bit. So once the focus group work is done, the ad agency says, okay, so here are the winning colors. Here's what the winning logo is, and here's the 4 TV spots and radio spots that people really laughed at. So here's what we propose as your new brand company. Go ahead and deliver it. And oh, by the way, your people in your company probably need to understand what this new brand is. So we've developed this 12-minute video that we want to show at an all hands meeting kind of thing.
Oh. Yes, and then after the 12-minute video, there are employees in the room saying, what is this? Nobody talked to me about the problems that this company faces and what we might do about them. But now all of a sudden we've got a new logo and a new slogan and so forth. And we're going to have to, just as the company's processes and culture and so forth, we're going to have to change and wiggle ourselves around to fit this new brand that the branding agency came up with.
Right, and that is chaos and destabilization within a company.
Oh, yes.
I've been on the company side of that, and it was like, we've been trying so hard to deliver on this that our customers have been expecting for so very long, and now you want us to deliver on this. But all you did was tell us what this is. You didn't tell us how why, who, and so now we have to go back and figure out how much is this going to cost. How are we going to change our processes? How are we going to change our culture? How are we going to change our sales? We're going to, and let's not even talk about the cost of the new T-shirts and logos and billboards and trucks if we're a production company. I mean, there's a huge amount of cost in changing a brand.
Right. And understand, please, that the examples we've given so far have sounded mostly like consumer goods types of brands. But what we've said also absolutely holds true for business-to-business advertising as well. Their consumers are other companies, but that certainly doesn't mean that a brand isn't important.
Right. A brand is critical, and we're absolutely 100% big believers in brand and brand discovery and exploration. It's just doing it differently, not looking externally at market and competition, but rather going back to that company who, at the beginning, we said discounting the new CEO. But even then, if a new CEO comes along, or if leadership is tired of the brand, or in most cases, if their company has hit some roadblocks or stagnating, what we say is, let's stop and figure out what's going on, because you already have a successful brand. It's gotten you where you are today. That's your authentic brand.
Authenticity.
Let's start thinking about internally where the people, the process, production, culture is out of alignment in your company's ability to deliver on that brand, rather than thinking about it's time for a new brand.
Right.
Because it rarely is.
Time for a new brand can be fraught with all kinds of challenges. Imagine just for a moment that you're a customer service representative on the floor or on the phone or something. You've been handed a new brand that you need to speak from, but you have long-standing relationships with customers who are going to be reaching out to you and wondering why your company looks a little bit different from the way it looked yesterday. That could be a real uncomfortable conversation. Unfortunately, the C-suite never sees that sort of interaction going on, but internally, those customer service people are confused and their lives are disrupted. Externally, the customers are left wondering, who are you? These guys over here, those guys now, who are
Right,
you?
right. So I think that's really our bottom line in explaining right now in this first video how the traditional branding process works and those assumptions that Kurt talked about at the very beginning that are they don't work. So to recap, the traditional branding process is going to talk with the senior leadership. They're going to do market research. They're going to research externally on what the market is looking for and
Right.
then what competitors are offering and promising. Find some place that isn't being a need that's not being met. Bring that back to the company. Say, here's the new brand, and then do a lot of focus groups to figure out what ads are fun, what colors get some traction, what words in a tagline, they might change the mission, the vision, all these sorts of things.
Sure.
All of this external research. We mentioned the chocolate, so there's an obesity issue in there. And then ultimately bring that back to the company. Here's the new brand, a 12-minute video for the internal, for the people in the company. Here's what your new brand is. Good luck, go deliver on it. Internally, the company is frustrated, demoralized, confused, and externally, the marketplace is also confused.
Exactly. Well, thank you for joining us for this first video. We've got a lot more coming up. Video number 2, dealing with smart branding specifically and how it differs enormously from the traditional method, is the subject you can look forward to next. We hope to see you again. Please subscribe. There's a lot of good information coming, and we'd like to see you back.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks.
Subscribe.